Hello, everyone. Welcome back to today's story. In this episode, we follow Quang as he prepares a surprise that will change everything for Linda. Without warning, without grand speeches, he quietly leads her down a winding mountain road, straight to a lakeside studio waiting just for them. What Linda thinks is an ordinary day becomes the moment Quang reveals his deepest intention, capturing their love in a set of wedding photos that reflect not just beauty, but commitment, tenderness, and a future he's finally ready to build. Stay until the end, because this chapter shows not just romance, but the silent devotion of a man who chooses love through action. And don't forget to subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Your support means the world to us. The morning air is crisp, carrying the smell of wet grass and faint mist rolling down from the mountains. Linda steps out of the house with a small jacket over her arm, expecting an ordinary day. But standing outside is Quang, hair neatly styled, shirt freshly pressed, eyes shining with a quiet excitement she can't yet decipher. He doesn't say much at first. He just walks up, gently takes the jacket from her hands, and says, "Wear this later. For now, come with me." Linda blinks. "Where are we going?" Quang only gives a soft smile. "You'll see." They walk toward his motorbike, but this time the bike is spotless, decorated with a few white ribbons tied awkwardly, clearly handmade. Linda notices them immediately. Her brows lift. "Quang, what is this?" "Just get on," he replies, still refusing to reveal anything. The road winds down toward the valley, passing fields turning golden under the rising sun. Linda feels the cold wind brushing her face, but beneath it is something warmer, a feeling growing from her chest as she watches Quang's steady shoulders guiding the way. Every so often he looks back, checking if she's comfortable. And each time, her heart beats a little faster. After nearly half an hour, the bike stops at a quiet old studio sitting beside a small lake. White curtains sway at the doorway, and a photographer stands waiting with a camera hanging from his neck. Linda freezes. Her breath catches. "Wait, what are we doing here?" Quang turns to her, eyes soft but determined. "We're taking wedding photos." The world stands still. Linda stares at him, unable to speak. Her hand covers her mouth as the realization washes over her like a rising tide. He planned this. He arranged everything. He brought her here, without pressure, without speeches, without any grandeur, just pure intention. Quang steps closer. "I didn't want you to stress about anything. I just thought maybe we should capture this moment in our lives. Something beautiful. Something yours." Her eyes flicker, trembling. "You should have told me. I'm not prepared. My hair, my clothes." Quang shakes his head. "You're perfect today, even if you had no idea." The photographer chuckles warmly, stepping forward. "Shall we begin? We've prepared a few outfits in advance, just in case." Linda gasps softly and turns to Quang, who nods like a man caught red-handed in love. "I might have talked to him earlier," he admits. Inside the studio, Linda finds a row of dresses. Soft whites, pale creams, delicate lace shimmering like morning frost. She touches one gently. "These are beautiful. They're for you," Quang says simply. Linda changes behind the curtain, while Quang waits outside, pacing like a nervous groom who's trying not to show it. When she steps out, wearing a simple but elegant white dress that hugs her figure without overwhelming her, Quang forgets to breathe. His eyes widen, and for a long moment, he just stares. Linda blushes, biting her lip. Is it okay? He swallows. Linda, you look like every dream I've ever had. The photographer clears his throat with a grin. All right, lovebirds. Let's head out before the sunlight changes. They walk toward the lakeside. Dragonflies skim across the water. Ripples glisten like broken silver. The photographer positions them under a low-hanging willow tree. Quang, put your hand around her waist. Linda, lean on him a little. Look at each other like you're seeing your future. Linda tries not to giggle, but Quang is stiff as a carved statue. The photographer sighs. Relax, brother. You're marrying her, not guarding a treasure chest. Linda bursts into laughter, the sound pure and soft. She reaches up and gently touches Quang's forearm. Come here, just breathe. When he finally loosens up, the photos change instantly. Warmer, softer, more real. Linda leans her head on his chest. His hand finds her waist naturally. Their eyes meet, lingering longer than usual, speaking more than either dares to say out loud. Perfect, the photographer murmurs as the shutter clicks rapidly. They move to the next setup, a wooden swing decorated with white roses. Linda sits while Quang stands behind her, holding the ropes. The breeze lifts her hair, catching the sunlight. The photographer lowers his camera. Wow, you two look like a story. Linda looks down shyly, but Quang's proud smile doesn't fade for even a second. Then comes the field nearby, where wildflowers stretch across the hill like scattered stars. The photographer asks them to walk hand in hand, naturally, as if no one is watching. Linda laughs every few seconds because Quang keeps stealing glances at her, pretending he isn't. You're not even looking at where you're walking, she scolds lightly. I'm looking at where my life is, he says without thinking. Linda stops in place, stunned by the unexpected confession. Quang blinks, realizing what he just said. I mean, but Linda doesn't let him finish. She softly squeezes his hand, eyes bright. I know. The next shot demands intimacy. All right, Quang, stand behind her, wrap your arms around her waist, and rest your chin on her shoulder. Quang hesitates, suddenly shy. Linda turns her head slightly. It's okay. I want that too. He steps closer, gently sliding his arms around her. The warmth of his chest presses lightly against her back. Linda inhales, steadying her breath as she leans into him. The photographer clicks slowly, savoring the moment. You two have a love that doesn't need posing, he murmurs. The final set is the most emotional, by the water's edge during golden hour. The sun is low, turning the lake into molten gold. The photographer asks them to face each other, hands gently intertwined. Linda, he says softly, close your eyes. Imagine the day you'll look back at these photos. She closes her eyes. The wind brushes her cheeks. Quang studies her quietly, the softness of her expression, the way her eyelids tremble slightly. Quang, the photographer whispers, pull her closer. He does. Linda opens her eyes just as he steps forward, their faces only inches apart. Neither speaks. And in that silence, something unspoken becomes real, something neither can undo nor wants to. The shutter clicks, a moment captured forever. The sun dips lower behind the hills, stretching gold across the lake as if the sky itself is blessing the moment. Linda shivers slightly in the evening breeze, and without thinking, Quang removes his coat and drapes it over her shoulders. She looks at him, surprised. "You'll get cold," she whispers. "I'm fine," he replies. But his ears are already turning red from the chill. The photographer watches the exchange with a knowing grin. "Beautiful. Hold that feeling." They do, and the camera clicks again, preserving the softness between them. Next, the photographer leads them toward a narrow wooden dock extending over the water. He gestures for Linda to sit at the edge while Quang stands behind her, as if guarding her from the world. Linda dips her toes close to the surface, laughing when cold droplets splash her ankles. "Lean back a little," the photographer says. "Look up at him." Linda tilts her chin upward. Quang meets her gaze, and his breath catches. The wind gently lifts her hair, the fading light painting her skin in warm tones. It feels like he's watching not just a woman, but every tomorrow he has dared to hope for. "You look." He stops, swallowing the words. Linda smiles softly. "I know." The photographer snaps another shot. "Perfect. You two capture emotion without trying." They walk to the final indoor setup inside the rustic studio. White curtains flutter around an elegant chair placed near a vintage mirror. Golden string lights drape along the walls, casting a warm glow. Linda changes into a second dress, this one more lace, more detail, more dreamlike. Quang waits outside again, leaning against the doorway, tapping his fingers nervously. The moment she steps out, he freezes. It's as though time takes a slow breath. The dress fits her like it was made just for her. Soft lace wraps her shoulders. A gentle shimmer glides with each movement, and her hair, loosely curled by the stylist, frames her face with softness. Quang's voice barely escapes. "Linda, She lowers her eyes shyly. "Too much?" He shakes his head immediately. "It's not enough. No dress could ever match how beautiful you are." Her cheeks burn a deep red. The stylist, overhearing, wipes a fake tear. "Sir, please. Some of us are single." Linda laughs, covering her face. They step onto the small set. The photographer positions them in front of the hanging lights. "Linda, sit." "Quang, stand behind her. Hold her shoulders gently." When Quang places his hands on her shoulders, Linda feels warmth flood through her skin. Her heart beats faster, not from posing, but from how tenderly he touches her. As if she is fragile glass, he refuses to risk breaking. "Now," the photographer instructs, "look into the mirror together." Their reflections meet, two people side by side, closer than ever before. Linda studies the image, realizing how natural they look together. Quang's eyes in the mirror aren't the stern ones he shows others. They're soft, vulnerable, filled with a quiet devotion. The shutter clicks. "That is one of the best shots today," the photographer says softly. Then he offers a final suggestion. "Would you both like a candid moment? Something unposed, something real, something you'll remember not as a photo shoot, but as the beginning of your life together." Quang and Linda exchange glances. She nods. "All right," the photographer says, lifting his camera. "Forget I'm here." They stand under the lights in silence at first, unsure how to forget. But then Linda lifts her hand slowly, almost hesitantly, and reaches for Quang's. Their fingers interlace. Quang's thumb brushes the back of her hand instinctively. "What are you thinking right now?" Linda murmurs, eyes searching his. Quang exhales, speaking his truth quietly. "I'm thinking, I never believed a moment like this could exist for someone like me." Linda squeezes his hand. "Quang, you deserve happiness too." Before he can reply, the photographer clicks. The photo captures the tenderness of a man finally allowing himself to hope and a woman choosing to stand beside him. Next, the photographer lowers the camera. "We're done." Linda blinks. "Already? We've taken enough to fill a whole album," he laughs. They return to the small changing room. Linda carefully removes the dress, folding it with a gentle reverence, as if afraid to disturb the moment that just passed. When she steps out in her normal clothes, she looks almost shy, as though the magic of the gown lingers in her mind. Quang is waiting outside, hands in his pockets. His shoulders relax the moment he sees her. Ready to go? But before Linda can answer, the photographer calls them back. "One more thing, come see the preview." They walk to the computer. The screen lights up with the first image. Linda under the willow tree. Quang's arms around her, both smiling without artifice. Then the wildflower field. Her laugh suspended midair, while Quang looks at her like she is the only person in the world. Then the dock shot. The moment he hovered protectively behind her, sunlight catching her eyes. And finally, the candid moment. Their hands intertwined, their foreheads almost touching, the entire room glowing around them. Linda gasps softly. These are beautiful." Quang's expression softens, almost breaking into vulnerability. "They're beautiful because you're in them." The photographer coughs dramatically. "Sir, please stop. If you continue talking like that, I might fall in love with you myself." Linda bursts into laughter, lightly smacking the photographer's arm. "Enough!" They thank him and walk out of the studio into the cool evening air. Lights from nearby houses flicker like stars fall into earth. Linda wraps her arms around herself, and Quang gently adjusts the coat around her shoulders again. "Today," she begins, searching for the words, "felt unreal." "It was real," Quang replies quietly. "Everything, every moment." She looks at him, really looks at him. The man who carried her burdens silently. The man who fought alone. The man who softened only for her. "Why did you do all this?" Quang hesitates, eyes drifting to the lake. "Because I wanted you to have a memory you'd never doubt. Something warm to look back on. Something that proves how serious I am about you." Linda's heart thuds in her chest. "You didn't need to prove anything." "I did," he says softly. "Not to win you, but to honor you." The wind blows gently. Linda steps closer, placing a hand over his. "Quang, you already do." For a long moment, they stand silently beside the lake, the world dimming into twilight. No photographer, no poses, no instructions, just two people who have taken a step deeper into something real. As they walk back toward the motorbike, Linda steals a glance at him, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't wait to see the photos printed. Quang smiles, a rare full smile. I can't wait to see them with you. And the night wraps around them, not cold, but warm, like a future quietly unfolding.